Hello students, greetings. I hope that you all are enjoying the course and that you're having fun as you become oriented to it. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. You have my contact information. Basically, what I want to do with you all today is maybe go over some of the objectives that we have for week one, and also make a few announcements about some things that are going on, and some general announcements that I just wanted to make with you all, and kind of clarify some of the things that you all have been asking a few questions about. So that's what we're going to do today. As a quick outline, a very brief overview. Remember, this is an accelerated course, so you're going to be moving at a very rapid pace. But I trust that you all have that in mind, and you keeping that in mind as you move through the material. I will go over the announcements first, as they are sort of pressing given the times. If you are wondering about your advising schedule, you need to talk to your academic advisor about that. In other words, if it's a question about your curriculum, if it's a question about what you've completed or you need to complete, you need to speak with your academic advisor that has been assigned to you. Unfortunately, I don't have any students that are assigned to me at this point in time. If you wish to request that, you need to speak to the Department of Behavioral and Social Sciences about that. They'll be able to provide a little bit more clarification on that issue. So again, if you need to drop, if you have questions about the process, please contact the Department of Behavioral and Social Sciences. They will give you more of an idea on where to go exactly. Your textbooks, I had some questions on that. You want to be sure that you have the most up-to-date textbook. I know that textbooks aren't very affordable, if you will, if you're an undergraduate student, and I understand completely, but I do need you to have that updated textbook. It keeps us all on the same page. If you try to get an outdated textbook, you can use it for the concepts, but when we have assignments and things on certain pages, you're going to be unable to know exactly what it is that I'm requiring of you. So just keep those things in mind as you go along. Now, in terms of the assignments themselves, I've had a few questions by email about the construction of the assignments, if you will. The point is for you as a student in this course to develop an understanding of a very fundamental understanding of how things work in American government. So I am going to allow you to include some background experience. Personal opinions are to be limited. We want to provide examples that can be sort of defended with academic information or scholarly information, references, sources, and things of that nature. I understand that you all have opinions, as we all do, and they are valuable, and I value them. But for our intents and purposes, I would like you to use examples from the textbook as much as possible when you're making points in a research paper or in our application assignments. We have weekly application assignments, okay? That's the writing. That's what you see every week. We won't always have a test or an exam every week. That may change, but I will try to give you as much notice as possible. I do want to try to implement as many standards of learning and assessments as possible. But like I said, I will keep you up to date. Just remember you're here to synthesize, take what you know, and take what the textbook says, and put those two things together to arrive at a knowledgeable conclusion in whatever it is that you're writing. The trade-off with the accelerated courses is there is a bit more writing and it is a bit more intensive in a shorter amount of times. So traditionally, you would have a midterm, you would have a final, whereas in our setting, you're going to be writing bit by bit weekly, or you're going to have an exam on 2 chapters versus a midterm on 8 chapters, those types of things. And I'll try to clarify that as more as we go along here. So those are some things just to keep in mind that I can think of at the moment. And again, I will be updating you more as we go along in the process. It has been very disheartening to see the events that are taking place in Louisiana right now with the weather and the state of emergency. Certainly, my thoughts and prayers are with everyone there and with those that are involved and affected by the rain and the continued rain. And I'm hoping that it ends very shortly because it is it's very sad, and we have the history with the water and Katrina and the flooding, and you don't wish for these things to happen. You know in the back of your mind that it may happen, and unfortunately it has happened. So all we can do is move forward from that point. But I do want to say, for our intents and purposes, I am going to extend deadlines for week 1, okay, because of the university closure. That was today, on Friday. So I think that students in our setting should be given the same treatment as those that are on ground and actually in the campus. So I'm extending that to you all. Instead of Sunday being Sunday at midnight, or Monday at 12:01, if you will, being the last possible time for you to submit, or the deadline, I'm going to make that Monday. So I'm giving you an additional 24 hours to compensate for everything. And I certainly hope that you or none of your family has been affected by this. And if they have been, my thoughts are with you, obviously. But I know that in times like these, and in places like, our great state, we will come together and we will overcome. So do what you can to help out locally, get involved. There's going to be all types of things out there that you can do to help, and I encourage that. I think that's all I have for the announcements part of this. Like I said, as things come, I will update you, and as we go along. But if you have questions, let me know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what I'm here for. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about chapters 1 and 2 this week. I hope you all had a chance to go through, go through the readings and get an idea of the topics and what it is that is being discussed exactly and why. Chapter 1 is an intro to the subject. Remember, this is a survey course, so it's very basic. The concepts are very broad, and it's surface level is what I'm saying. It's still good information, but you need to keep that in mind as well. If you're interested in this subject, which I hope you all are, That's why you're in the class. Some of you, maybe it's your elective and you don't have a choice, right? Um, but seriously, if you are interested in this curriculum and these types of studies, let me know, and I'll try to coordinate with Dr. Ordez, and we can see what we can do for you in terms of getting you on in a program geared toward this sort of curriculum at LSU-A. So remember, Chapter 1 is foundation. You want to know your definitions, your terminology. You want to know what the government does. What is the role of the government, which is to promote order or to promote security. There's been recent government expansion. You want to know why. What are the reasons behind that? Why does the government need to get involved? You want to know opinions. What is public opinion? Why do people think about the government the way they think about the government? Maybe it's in a a negative sense or a negative connotation when they think about the government. So why do people think like this on average? Now remember, you want to take things when you research and when you read, not just generally. You don't want to generalize, not all of the time. Studies are generalizable, but you want to remember that things differ on a case-by-case basis is what I'm saying. So those are some things just to keep in mind there. America, technically, in the book, is defined, and as academics will tell you, is defined as a democratic republic, which contains both elements of a democracy, which comes from the Greeks. Demos kratos is the Latin, is rule by the mob, is the literal translation. And also republicanism, which comes from the Romans, where you have a bicameral legislature. Okay, that's where we get our Senate from, the U.S. Senate. So believe it or not, these things aren't relatively new. The United States did not come up with all the ideas on their own. They certainly had a little bit of help. So keep that in mind, when we talk about democracy and we talk about a republic throughout the course, so that you're able to understand the difference between those two and also the combination of both of them here in the U.S. Chapter 1 also deals about individuals and who they are as Americans. So who do we think about when we think about what an American is, or who an American is? What do they look like? How do they talk, act, dress, speak? Those types of things. And I want you to think about it when you're reading and as you go along. America is a country of ideas. We tend to become focused on the actual visual representations around us, and we forget that the ideas are what is most powerful, or what is most the driving force behind the decisions that are made in our everyday lives. So I want you to think about that. I want you to also think that there is not an ideal image of an American. The fact is, we are all diverse. We all have our skill sets. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. We're human. So keep that in mind as you go along. We certainly are different. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. We certainly are different from other countries. And we have our strengths. We have our weaknesses as a nation. And I will certainly tell you that I firmly believe that this is the best country in the world. And that's, everything is debatable. But if you look at standard of living, and if you look at studies, quantitative studies and research, you can make some comparisons and say that Americans have a pretty good way of life, standard of living. So just a little bit of discussion there. Remember, that the ideas are what counts. That's what I want you to know in this course, the ideas, okay? That's what I want to leave you with. I don't want to leave you with a course that tells you, what my opinions are, my thoughts on the subject. That's not what I'm here to do. My purpose here and my purpose in this role is to tell you all both sides of the story. Okay? So keep that in mind as you go along. Now, political culture is something else you're going to want to know. It starts out as a very young person. So you are socialized from a very young age. And throughout your training and throughout your education, you become more socialized, and you learn more about political culture, and you learn more about the way of life here in this country and abroad as well in other countries. So you want to know how that concept is learned as you grow, again, from a very young age into adulthood, early adulthood, and I would say even until your mid-20s, actually, because the frontal lobe of the brain doesn't stop developing until around that age, 25, and you'd have to ask the biology department for the scientific name. I'm not sure. But so those are some things to keep in mind. Now, Chapter 2 is about the Constitution, all right? You're going to want to know the Constitution, not just for this class, but for the simple fact that it's part of you. I'll let that sink in for a moment. Our Constitution is part of you. It's part of who you are. It's part of who I am. It's part of us. It's part of this country. It has those ideas that we were just talking about in the Constitution. Okay? Now, I'm not going to ask you to memorize the Constitution. I will say that you need to remember the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. Okay? That's essential. Everyone should know what that is and how that applies. Okay? So if there's something you need to memorize, it's going to be the Bill of Rights. As we go further into the book and we discuss federalism and the judicial system, you will need to become more familiar with the actual articles and how they apply in the eyes of the law. So know your Constitution, know how the Constitution can be altered or amended or ratified. There are 27 amendments on the Constitution, believe it or not. And the latest amendment was on congressional pay raises, I believe. So a lot of interesting stuff there for you to look at, the history of the amendments and why they did what they did. So take a look at that. We want to get at the idea of federalism later, but also remember your checks and balances, why things are the way they are in the Constitution. The point is, no one person or no one office has all the power. That's the idea behind checks and balances, as you learned in high school. So those are some things you need to keep in mind as you go along as well. Remember, there's a balance that we're trying to create with the system, with the design of the system. So that's just one of those things in terms of the Constitution as a mechanism in society, in American society, as it operates daily and also in the long run as well. So just keep those things in mind as you go along and as you're reading. So I don't want to talk too much, again, because this is accelerated. The course has a lot of information. I want to be here to talk about your main points the main ideas, your objectives, the concepts, what's expected of you. So more or less to guide you and coach you along the way. Most of this is student-led because remember, we are going to be covering on average around 2 chapters a week. And that's a lot if you've had a traditional course. So it's about double the amount of work in the same amount of time. So I do want to give you an idea of what it is you're reading and why it's important. So that's my whole purpose for going over some of the material. I want to provide you with video lectures and things like this as much as possible, but also I will be providing you with PowerPoint slides and other learning materials as we go along as time permits. So if I have the time to sit down and do one of these, then I certainly will do it. And I may even give you a tour of my office here in Virginia Beach, time permitting. I do wish that you all and hope you all are doing well, and I hope that things will certainly improve back home and in the Bayou State. I know that we're going to rebound like we always do. So again, I will be making accommodations for week 1 because of the emergency situation that we are currently experiencing there. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, you have my email, you have my contact information. Don't be afraid to contact me. Remember, no question is a stupid question, okay? I hope you all have a great weekend and enjoy it, and continue to stay focused as we go into week 2. Again, you're going to need to maintain a high level of focus to be successful in these courses. One last announcement about the academic integrity clause that you all are familiar with in the handbook, the student handbook, and also in my syllabus. If I catch anyone plagiarizing or taking someone's ideas without giving proper credit, I'm going to give you a 0. That's just the bottom line. And you know that stealing is wrong. You've known that as a kid, so nothing has changed. Don't steal other people's ideas. It's not a good thing. Trust me, as an academic, we take it very seriously because it takes our time to create that stuff and create that information. Just like it takes time to construct or build anything, you certainly wouldn't want to be stealing a car or anything of that nature. So when you turn it in and you turn in your assignments there and upload your assignments, you're going to see a similarity percentage on there, on the actual website itself. So when you see that percentage, the higher the number, the more content you have taken from the knowledge database, okay? That's not necessarily a bad thing if you have cited it in your paper. Your papers and your application assignments are in APA format. You are supposed to reference all your sources. If you have questions about APA format, let me know. I will get you in touch with someone who can answer those questions for you or at the library. I'm not sure if Mr. Gaspard is still at the library, but he is a very valuable resource to check out. Anyways, if your percentage is higher than 30%, you need to revise your paper, okay? Because what you're doing is either A, you're taking a lot of information and not quoting it, or B, you have quoted the information. Either way, you want to be developing your own ideas. That's the whole point of all this. I want you to develop your own ideas. I want you to to develop your own thoughts about these processes and how they work, not only in your daily life, but from a systemic point of view as well in this country. So, that being said, the higher they are in percentage similarity, the lower your grade will be. I don't know how else I can explain this. And I'm explaining this because it has been a problem in the past. So just be aware of that. Be aware that we do have the technology to see where the information came from and how much of it is actually in your own words. Believe me, I know what the undergraduate writing is compared to professional writing that you get off the internet. I know what to expect. So it's not even worth trying. And I'm going to leave it at that. I think you all get the point. Again, my thoughts are with you all. Godspeed. Hang in there. Have a great week. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.